JDM is bringing the belt home down under to Australia, and Makhachev is coming down along with it. I think JDM is being severely underrated in this fight, not only by the casual fans, but by the bookies. He's currently sitting at a $3 underdog, and honestly, I just think that's a big error, and I'm here to explain why. You would think the bookies would learn their lesson when it comes to these Aussie boys. Like, as we saw, Volkanovski vs Makhachev in the first fight was a huge overestimation by the bookies. I think they had Volk as like a $4 underdog or something like that going into that. And even JDM Bilal, $2.85 for Jack going into that fight. I remember literally laying in bed looking at the ceiling trying to imagine a world Bilal wins as an Ilya fan so we could get Makhachev Ilya. But honestly, I just couldn't imagine it. I was right then, and I think I'm right again now. The only difference is some of the physicals and the styles, and that's what I want to talk about in this video. I see a lot of the same people saying the same kind of things about advantages for Makhachev in this fight. Obviously, like lighter man skill, which has been proven true in the past, but I just don't think we'll have the same kind of advantage it does in other fights. I think that connotation is going to change when we talk about guys like Jack Della Maddalena, who have a very, very high level of skill plus the range and size that'll give Makhachev more issues. I see a lot of people saying that the weight cut is a big influence on Makhachev, and I think it is. Makhachev does kind of look like a zombie when he cuts to 155, so obviously not cutting that much weight is going to give him an advantage coming into this one, plus the added size that he added onto in camp with his creatine Makhachev method, as we've seen. I just want to know how big will Makhachev actually be at 170, because he never had an issue with strength at lightweight. In fact, I think he might be the strongest lightweight of all time if it's not for Khabib Nurmagomedov. Holy stutter, let's restart that. I'm gonna kill myself. But I just don't know, like, will his inbred grip strength give him the advantage, or will the extra size actually make his cardio worse? We all know Makhachev's cardio is good, but it's not like he doesn't get tired. He definitely looked a bit worn out in the Volk fight at the end of it. We all saw he was battered at the end of that fight, and even in the Dustin fight. In that 5th round and that 4th round even, they were both exhausted. I just think Jack is not getting tired like Dustin Poirier is at 36 years old. So the question overall is, 1, how big will Makhachev actually be? And 2, will it really be an advantage, or will walking around with all that extra muscle kind of slow Makhachev down? If he were to slow down against someone like JDM, who I think is going to be the toughest fight of his career by far, I think there could be trouble for Islam. Honestly, inbred grip strength can only take you so far. I think there's going to be a turning point in the fight where Jack's going to be able to push the pace and Islam's going to break. There's a very, very slim chance that Makhachev comes out looking bigger than Bilal, even if he's massive, strong as an ox, big as a bull. It's just not going to compare with Jack Della Maddalen's kangaroo physique. Like, have you seen this man? No matter the result of the actual fight, I'm going to stand true to this sentiment that Islam Makhachev is not going to look bigger than Bilal. Plus, Bilal is definitely a better open mat wrestler, but we'll go more into that conversation later on. So now that I feel like it's fairly established that the size won't be an issue, especially not for Jack, and I don't think it'll be a massive advantage for Makhachev, we have to look at the lighter man skill and just how good Islam Makhachev was at 155 pounds. So obviously we all know Islam Makhachev's a dominant champion at the 155 pound weight class. He was able to strike with everyone in 155, which is just a terrifying thing to say because his grappling was arguably number 1, but definitely top 3 grapplers of all time at 155, and maybe even top 5 in the sport. That being said, to no fault of his own, Islam Makhachev's best performances have all come against a short notice opponent. Bobby Green, Renato Moicano, Volkanovski the 2nd time, and Ahmed Sarukian the 1st time are some of his best wins. That being said, they're all on like 10 days notice. Right, that's not Makhachev's fault, he fights who's in front of him. That being said, we do have to look at some of those performances and take like a 0.5 away from all of them. So the main fights I'm going to be looking at to determine how this is going to go is where I see weaknesses in Makhachev's game for a bigger, more technically sound opponent like JDM to pick apart. Every fighter that's versed Makhachev with effective prep time has done pretty well. We're talking about guys like Thiago Moises, who went 4 rounds with Makhachev. Drew Dober, who's making it to a 3rd round. Like, Makhachev isn't just running through these guys, and Drew Dober is nowhere near the level of a Jack Della Maddalena. It's just not even comparable. And I swear, some of these doggy fans will make you think Makhachev is just going to walk out there and like pick JDM up, suplex him and sub him in 25 seconds. You have no idea what you're speaking about. You have zero clue what you're talking about. Please stop watching mixed martial arts if you think that. Go watch any of Makhachev's performances. He's never done that to anyone in his career. Even Makhachev's run-through win against Moicano, which was extremely impressive, And no one just does that to Renato Moicano, as funny as it sounds, as Joe Rogan as it sounds. It's true. No one does that to Renato. That being said, it wasn't just like a suplex finish in 5 seconds. Like, you know, we kind of thought, you know, I know Makhachev slipped, but it just wasn't, you know, as people describe Islam. That cheeky grin, that cheeky smile that he has, it just, the aura of it rubs off on the fans, and for some reason we just forget it's a fight at the end of the day. We just forget. Like, he's just not gonna run through Jack. This is my point. There's been many sequences that shows although Islam is so dangerous on the ground, there's ways you can avoid him. Volkanovski and Poirier were both able to scramble, get put in a body triangle with Makhachev on their back, and they were able to sit in that body triangle for multiple minutes without moving a muscle and just survive. You know what I mean? Makhachev is excellent at capitalizing on you trying to move. If you don't try to move, you can easily survive on the ground with Makhachev. And I think Jack will know that. I think Craig Jones will know that. I think they'll come into this knowing they can survive if they want to. If they need to take a round off and give it to Makhachev so they can bring the fight deeper, they will. And I see a lot of the reasoning behind why people are like, oh, I'm coming back to this comment, brother. Islam gonna run through him, brother. Like, come on, man. Like, that's just because Gilbert Burns was taking Jack down. But we know excuses can be true. Doggies fans should know this the most after seeing the Alex Pereira Ankalaev performance. All of you guys, all the doggies, all of them were clowning Alex for saying he was injured and saying he would have a better performance in the second fight. They were like, I'll KO, brother. I'm just gonna KO him, brother. How did that go?
How did that go?
Go watch back JDM versus Burns and keep in your mind the context that in the first round, Gilbert Burns threw a body kick that broke JDM's arm. Like, snapped it properly. Snapped it so bad, he needed 4 surgeries and 18 months away from the sport to recover. That being said, the break was so bad at one point, they were thinking he might have lost his arm. But this guy's such a savage, such a
fucking Aussie
savage, that he was posting against the fence on his shattered arm to defend against Gilbert Burns. And people, all they got out of seeing that performance, when he has a broken limb and he manages to scramble from bottom with a world-class jiu-jitsu guy on him, gets to his feet, predict the takedown and TKO him with a knee up the middle, all they got from that fight is, brother, Bilal run through him, brother. Bilal show level, brother. And what the fuck happened? We had Jack come back with 2 arms, 2 legs, as Guru says, and show levels to Bilal. 4-1, maybe 5-0. If you actually watch back that fight, it is not as close as you remember. It's not the Kenny Okoye of the world. You know, all the Kennys, the Mystic Kenny, they're all saying, man, I think it's 3-2 Bilal, man. 3-2 Bilal. But you actually watch the fight back, it's like 5-0 Jack, like clear, like 4-1 max. So I think that brilliant performance against Bilal puts to bed any questions about Jack's takedown defense. It was clearly that he was injured. And I know that we don't really give fighters excuses in this sport, but after seeing that, we should. And especially after seeing Pereira's comeback performance against Ankalaev, it just makes sense that, yes, excuses can be true. Yes, DC could have lost that fight against Stipe because of the eye poke. It's true, it just could have happened. It's not, oh, we don't have to account for those things. Just look at the end result, guys. Let's just look at the box score. People are also forgetting he had 12 weeks with Craig Jones. I don't know if it was a full 12, but he had a training camp with Craig Jones before that Bilal fight, and it showed. So we know Jack gets better every performance, and now he's got a guy like Craig Jones consistently training with him. So coming into MSG on November 16th, he's going to have had another training camp with Craig Jones. So if anything, we should expect better grappling defense than even in the Bilal fight, which would be insanely impressive because his takedown defense in that fight was superb. In fact, Jack actually has a really interesting way of stuffing takedowns in the open. So other than the lack of a weight cut and the lighter man's skill, the only things we're relying on for Islam is things that we've never seen before. So if we're going off what we have seen, I think that Islam has one chance to win this fight. I think a lot of people see it. There's clearly an opening in the scramble against JDM. Jack builds to his knees, which can be very scary against a guy like Makhachev, who's known for his DAS choke. This can be seen in JDM's performance against Ameev, where he gets put in a pretty tight DAS early on in the first round and is able to escape, show his heart and get the finish later in that same round. That being said, if I'm a guy like Craig Jones and I'm looking at JDM's performances to try to see an opening where Islam Makhachev, the submission expert, is going to win, then I'm going to pick up on something like this. So I think JDM's work with Craig Jones is really going to patch that hole, and Craig will be effectively preparing for the danger that is the scrambles. So that kind of brings us to the end of what Islam has, other than things we haven't seen. Like, does he come in with more pop in his shots? Does he come in with some new weapons? Does he have a new takedown entry that we haven't seen him shoot in his fights? Other than that, we can't really predict anything else. But what we can predict is JDM's just gonna get him. No, okay, in all seriousness, I think the best way to analyze this, even though it's like a revenge for Volk kind of fight, I think it's good if we look at JDM as like a Dustin 2.0, more than like a Volk 2.0. And we can dive into that and see why, but I do think there are some differences between Dustin and JDM, but I think they're all positive for JDM. That's the only difference. I mean, first, if we look at the physicals between Dustin and JDM, like Dustin he was definitely older in the Islam fight. I think he was 36 years old off the top of my head, which is definitely past the fighter's prime. He also has infamously one hip, which is going to make it a lot harder to escape takedowns, yet he still stuffed 12 takedowns and took Islam to a 5th round with prep time. And apparently he had, in that fight, he had a torn ACL as well and a broken rib. Like, he was properly injured in that fight and went 5 with Islam, had him busted up bad. I still think Islam was winning that fight very comfortably, but it just definitely shows that Dustin was definitely out of physical prime compared to a 28, 29-year-old Jack Della Maddalena with no injuries. Yeah, as well as on the physicals, I think Dustin's about 5'9" off the top of my head, which Connor's high, yeah, so he's about 5'9". Jack Della's 6 foot, and I think the reason that'll play a factor is because whenever we get into a bit of a scrap with Makhachev, he loves to grab that tie clinch, you know, the 2-on-1 on the neck, grab it, knees to the body, look for sweeps, things like that, where I just think his height at lightweight, the fact he's 5'11" at lightweight, plays a factor in why he can do that. It just makes it a lot more accessible when he's tie clinching someone smaller than him and easily breaking their posture compared to someone like Jack, who, if he stands tall, he's gonna be like a fucking kangaroo. You know what I mean? Like, he's gonna stand tall, man. I think on top of the physicals, like with Dustin being older and injured and things like that, I think even prime for prime, Jack is more powerful than Dustin Poirier, which would make sense. He's a higher weight class, bigger frame. He's not as fast twitch as Dustin, but he's got way more volume and cardio because of that. Because, you know, you see Dustin, you know, he'll block 3 shots against Chandler, come back with a left coming off the cage, bang, big explosive shot, or, you know, like BSD, nice placed right hook. That was, you know, not as fast twitch, but still, like, he gets these big wind-ups where I feel like JDM just places everything. He's very poised when he fights. He's very stoic. It's kind of like if Poirier never overswung, you know what I mean? Like, if he just fought like he fought Emmett all the time. That's kind of how I see JDM. Like, he's very, very fluid jab. He fights like a boxer would fight in MMA. So I think that allows him to keep cardio going in 25 minutes, compared to Dustin, who is clearly gassing in the 4th, despite winning that round, and was gassed in the 5th. But Islam was also gassed, and I just think I do not see JDM gassing at the same rate Dustin Poirier did. I think the cardio will also play a factor because of JDM's volume compared to Dustin. We see when Islam clinches Dustin, even in the 2nd round against the cage, Dustin just accepts the clinch, and then he rips a body shot or an uppercut, you know, 1 or 2, and then he gets out. Like in round 4, I think he landed like 3 or 4 body shots. You know, we had that guy in the crowd doing the real steel animation, you know, fighting as Dustin, like when that sequence, you know. But I think Jack would do that the entire fight. I think if you're gonna clinch Jack, he's gonna rip 3 shots to your body no matter what. So unless Islam's gonna come up and be really like dangerous with his hands or his elbows, if he's gonna have a lot more power, then maybe it could be different. But I honestly think every time he clinches Jack, he's just gonna eat body shots, and I think that's gonna hurt in the later rounds. And I think Jack's never getting tired. I just can't see it. We already know these Aussies have ridiculous cardio, mate. We have ridiculous cardio. We've got beaches everywhere, okay? We've been playing sports since day 1, alright? I guarantee you Jack has been kicking the footy since day 1. This guy's, he's in the midfield, he's in the guts, he's not getting tired. We've already established Jack isn't going to gas out. That's not going to be an issue. And we've seen Islam gets tired. He gets tired. I think in this fight in particular, he's going to get he's gonna gas out. I think he's gonna gas and get TKO'd overall, because we've seen when he moves up, well, he has moved up now. We haven't seen him in there, but he looks massive, and I just can't imagine that. Maybe, you know, not cutting weight could help him, but the extra muscle, it will weigh him down, especially when he's fighting the highest volume guy outside of Volkanovski that he's fought. The guy who's got the most aggressive scrambles. I would say even more aggressive scrambles than Volk. Although Volk's great with the butterfly guard and things like that. I just think Jack's ability to force scrambles is different. It's a different level, and it's extremely tiring to hold someone like that down. Like, if you've ever even trained and tried to hold someone down, it's extremely tiring. So I can't even imagine how it would feel trying to hold Jack down. Obviously, if Islam doesn't get an early submission, I really think he's going to gas. I think the power that's put on him as well, and the body work, it's all going to drain Islam. I think we'll see a difference in energy in rounds 3 or round 4. There's going to be a switch in the fight where Islam realizes this guy's getting up. He's not staying down. He's getting up, as Izzy said on his video with Jack. And you know, Jack is so calm and composed. Like, he will just be focused on the next step with infinite cardio. Whereas, I don't know. I know Islam's got extreme confidence, but I mean, that won't save him from gassing out, man. That won't save him. We're going to have to see if Islam's got that dog in him, you know what I mean? If he wants to pull this out. And I really just don't think he does. Like, he does, but I just don't think he's got more dog in him than Jack, you know what I mean? I really think if it gets gritty, which it will, that's where we're going to see a meaty TKO against the fence, you know? And I know I've already said, like, it's obviously going to be a competitive fight. Like, anyone who disagrees is utterly retarded. We're not going to use the actual word, but they are. But honestly, like, I've still got people who kind of think it's going to be like a, you know, Hamza DDP situation. But, like, come on, we've got Craig Jones and Volkanovski in the corner. This isn't no Mornvisser, you know what I mean? Mornvisser's the gritty South African taser coach, you know what I mean? Tasers DDP to get him on his feet, man. Like, come on, no. Craig Jones actually studies technique, man. We don't have tasers in the gym in Australia. We be looking at how to get butterflies in, you know, how to get to our elbows to get back to our feet, you know what I mean? How to not give up the neck in a scramble, do you know what I mean? We're not doing the get pinned down and crucifix with no taser to get up technique that Mornvisser does. Also, look, 4 out of Islam's last 7 fights have been first round finishes. But those 4 fights were all on short notice, as we established earlier. I think Dan Hooker was the one I didn't mention. But I think a lot of that is, if you're fighting Islam on short notice, there's got to be an intimidation factor. I think it was very, very easily seen in the Renato Moicano fight, where he's like, you know, he clearly, just on 24 hours notice, has gotten a fight against Makhachev. And you know, Renato's, I want the easy fight, man, I want the easy fight. Not so easy. You know what I mean? Quick switch up, not so easy. I think it was easily seen in that fight. You know, Renato has a little bit of success. You know, Makhachev kind of slips, and then when he gets taken down, he gets feet on hips and tries to get up, and it was a bit of a panic. He's like, oh, I need to get up, but he just puts himself in a front headlock position. Like, he wasn't very measured. You could kind of tell he had that nervous energy about him, which I just don't think Jack's gonna have, man. Jack is the guy, when you ask him, hey man, Makhachev's coming for your welterweight title, like, how do you feel about this? Come and get it. You know, like, it's a beautiful challenge. Do you know what I mean? Like, calm and composed. And look, I've had people in my Discord server already, shout out to my Discord server, by the way, you're all welcome to join, who've said, oh, Jack looks scared. Because, you know, it's been a couple days since I last recorded, and, you know, the face-off has happened. Jack looks scared. If anyone actually goes and watches that face-off, just look at them. Neither one looks scared. Anyone saying shit like that is like, you are not a psychologist, mate. Like, you have no, like, what are you doing? You're looking at men's faces and like, his eye twitched. In the left direction, he's scared. He's not poised. Stop analyzing the face-offs, bro. Come on, you're not achieving anything doing that. We all remember when everyone was saying Ilya's scared of Max. Like, come on, bro. That shit means nothing, bro. Yeah, and honestly, this video kind of requires a rant. There's a lot to talk about. I just think overall the last bits of technique that we should really pay attention to is from the Bilal and the Volk fight. In the Volk fight, we saw Volkanovski was able to switch stances and land some nice switch stance combos. You know, in the first round, he kind of stumbled Islam back, making Perth go crazy. When he hit that right hand followed with a left, when he stepped forward with his right leg, switching from orthodox to southpaw, and I think Jack will take inspiration from that, especially because I think Jack is the best switch stance boxer in UFC history, to be honest. maybe outside of Holloway. No, that doesn't even make sense. I think it's clearly Jack. And I think Jack is going to use those switch stance combos on Makhachev. And the fact that Makhachev stays southpaw, I think is going to be great for Jack to set up his punches. And I think he's going to land with power in this fight. I think maybe Makhachev could come back and land like a blitz or something, but it's not going to do anything to Jack's chin. We've already established Jack has like a top 5 chin in the sport. If you don't think so, if you disagree, that's fine, you can, but he's never been KO'd. He lost his first 2 fights, one of them was by TKO, and he was taking like 50 million punches and just ate them all. Look, at the end of the day, look, it's clear to see that Makhachev can be landed on. He's got good defense, but he can be landed on, especially with someone with precision, as we saw in that Volkanovski fight. And look, I rate Volkanovski very highly. I think he's like a top 3 fighter of all time. I know a lot of you Jones and Anderson Silva glazers won't like that, but I actually reward people for not taking steroids personally. So it's not like I think Makhachev will be easy to land on, but I just think Jack will be at that level. I think it's rare for an Australian to get to the top of, the UFC like Volkanovski did, but I think when we do, we stay there. The only one who didn't would be Ursag, right? And he didn't win the belt, but he arguably did. So there's a lot to look at, but we know Jack, as I said earlier, he defends takedowns in the open in a very specific way. He can do it while striking, like while boxing as he usually does, because he pulls up his high guard and he crunches down with his elbows, and he kind of defends takedowns with his forearms and his head. Right, which kind of makes it very difficult to enter in on him, and if you don't get a good entry, you're gonna eat shots back when you're trying to get out of range, which I think will be dangerous for Islam. I don't see Islam taking him down in the open at all, unless Jack makes a very obvious mistake and Islam's able to shoot under a punch or something. I think the only way Islam's gonna get him down is against the cage, and I think Jack's got the best cage takedown defense in the UFC. I just think the way he pummels underhooks really aggressively, like he did in the Bilal fight, is beautiful, and what you're going to need against Makhachev. And the way that he causes scrambles with his legs, like kicking off the fence very aggressively as well, classic kangaroo style, I think it's just going to be super effective against Makhachev. And I just think I do not see him getting held down, and I think that the feet is real danger. And ultimately, I think that's where the fight is going to play out, and I think that's where the fight's going to end. There's going to be a point in the fight where they're sweaty, there's been scrambles, Jack scrambled effectively, and he's just going to be able to walk him down. And Jack's really good at keeping people at the end of his punches. His range is ideal, like where he keeps people is just, it's picture perfect. I can just see Islam being completely unable to walk forward. He can't shoot on him because, Jack won't have his back to the cage and he'll be able to do his crunch takedown defense. He won't be able to strike with him. He's just going to get countered or ripped to the body. And that muscle he's carrying around, I just don't see him having the same speed to, throw a right overhand and then shoot like he did on Dustin, or grab a single leg and run it to the cage. Like, I just don't see that happening. And honestly, like, the Bilal fight was like a street beefs level mauling, in the 5th round. Like, that shit was, that shit was pretty violent. But I don't think Islam will make it there. I just don't think he has the same durability that Bilal has, and the ability to be so awkward and unreadable. Bilal presses forward and just eats shots and gets his face destroyed just to, walk forward and stay under pressure. I just don't think Makhachev will be willing to do that. And we all know Jack's willing to do that, man. We all know. When it gets down to a grit fest, you're not beating an Aussie. It's just not happening. Ultimately, my prediction is JDM round 4, round 5 TKO. I could see it being a 3rd round, but I do think Makhachev will have the conditioning maybe to get a takedown in the 3rd, or just, do the right things to stay alive, not take too much damage. But I think in rounds 4 and round 5, Jack will be most comfortable. He'll have the setups with the punches done. He'll have confused and overstimulated Makhachev on the feet with his switch stance, and the power shots and the body shots are going to start adding up at that point. The range will be established. He'll have his jab, he'll have his cross, he'll have the body shot. He'll be walking him down, and I just think Makhachev won't have anything for him in the later rounds. He won't have anything for him. He might have a shot that gets stuffed. He might have a couple strikes. Maybe the body kick might be money throughout this fight, but I think Jack's just going to tough it out. Like, there's no way you're winning the fight on body kicks. We're not Paul Craiging it to a decision. Like, we're not doing that. And I just think, once we see, wow, Makhachev's really done, he's got nothing for him, Jack's going to put the pressure on, Jack's going to take him out. And I think Jack's going to be a dominant champion after this fight. I think he's going to win this and he's going to stay champ and dominate welterweight for time to come. That being said, if Makhachev were to win, I would have Makhachev as the GOAT. If he was to become welterweight world champion on top of his resume, despite all the short notice fights and things like that, I think his resume is by far the best. Especially if we don't consider people using steroids. Although I think Makhachev popped, but I don't know if it's. I'm not too versed in the situation. I would have Makhachev as the GOAT until Ilya beats him, because I think Ilya would sleep Makhachev. But that's a different video. End of the day, I think this fight's gonna be sick. The card is amazing, absolutely stacked, and I think JDM's gonna get it done, and he's gonna bring the belt back to Australia, man. He's gonna bring it home. He's gonna bring it home, man.